Welcome to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and their journey. Now, let's get started with the show.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here. I am founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. I'm really excited for today's episode with Zach Wilcox of Fide Freight. And before we get started, Zach, I always like to mention other episodes people should check out of the podcast on Inspired Insider. So I've had some cool guests. Check out the episode with the co-founder of Pixar. He talks about some Steve Jobs stories, some George Lucas stories. I also had the founder of P90X, Tony Horton, on. And what's interesting about that, Zach, I love hearing the stories about not just the success, but the hard times. And he talked about when he first started, he made his food and rent money as a street mime. He would put his hat on the street and do street miming. That's how he made his money. And then he went on to, be, the founder of P90X, and they sold, hundreds of millions of DVDs and trainings and things like that. That and many more you can check out on InspiredInsider.com. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. And at Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And we do that by helping you run your podcast. For me, Zach, you know me a little bit by this point. The number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. I found no better way to do that over the past decade than to profile the people and the companies I admire on my podcast and shout from the rooftop so other people can learn about them too. So if out there you've thought about doing a podcast, you should. If you have questions, email us. We're happy to help. You can go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com for any questions you have. I'm excited. We have Zach Wilcox. He's CEO of Fide Freight. As I mentioned, he's a leader in the logistics industry. His office is in Michigan, Illinois. They serve lots of industries. They also serve specifically pharmaceutical companies, healthcare supply companies, as an example. And when I was talking to Zach, really, I know a lot of companies in the logistics industries. And there's not always full transparency. There's not always a complete communication with all steps along the journey. And one of the things that Zach and his team pride themselves on is full transparency, communication with all steps from bringing on a client all the way to getting the shipments completed on time. You can check them out at fidefreight.com. It's FIDE freight.com. Zach, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jeremy. I'm really excited to be on your podcast here, and I didn't know that about P90X. So that's new to me. I've already learned something. This is a great start.
We find all sorts of things, and we're going to dig deep into. With you, I want to start off. Just tell people a little bit about Fide Freight and what you guys do first.
Yeah, so we're a third-party logistics company. So we started out here in Michigan, actually, late 2019, and we started in a couple of niche industries. We actually moved a lot of hemp products, so CBD oil. You guys have probably heard of that. So we built out that niche industry, and then we were able to hire and expand into larger companies, larger corporations, larger industries overall. And we've had a great journey. We've expanded to Chicago, and we're servicing clients all across the country, so we're really excited. We've grown tremendously, not too fast, but definitely not too slow. So, we're 2 years in, but
logistics had to be crazy, Zach. Whenever you're listening to this, you've probably heard of the pandemic. Okay, maybe whenever it is. How did things change? Did things get crazy around the pandemic? It was just supply chain was probably much different than it's ever been before.
Yeah, it was really strange. It's changed so much since we started, right at the pandemic. It was 3 months in, and, we were thankful that the industries we were in weren't too harmed by the pandemic, but there were a lot of companies. It was really a blessing to us. Our industries that we were in weren't harmed. They actually
the opposite, right? I mean, you have healthcare, pharmaceutical. These are booming during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why we're really thankful is that happened. And there were a lot of companies that let people go, let good talent go that we were able to scoop up from other logistics companies. So we were really thankful for the pandemic in a strange way. It's been really nice to us as an organization.
How did you get into this industry?
Man, I mean, it's been. I didn't have any logistics experience. I was more the side of I really wanted to start a business, whereas my cousin who co-founded the company, he was in logistics. So we came together. He left his company. I had just been fired, or not fired, but I was working for a company, started a new manufacturing division there, and we had one big client. And I knew it was a matter of time. If this client goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so this client went, and I actually went out into my car. I started crying in my lap. I was like, man, what do I do? What do I do? And then, I came together with my cousin, and we ended up starting this website, and then turned it into a company. And I was running to the bank 5 times a day to send out wires. We had no credit when we started. It was a real mess, but been a journey, and I didn't think I'd ever be in logistics, but here I am.
Yeah, I guess the most dangerous number in a company is one. If you have one big client and that client goes, it's hard to go to sleep at night when that's happening.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's a perfect combination with your family member and you. They're the expert in logistics and you in business. And before we hit record here, we were talking a little bit about some topics I'd love for you to talk about, which is growing a company with core values. So
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially just seeing it from, we put our core values, I really put our core values in place the second we hired somebody. I thought it was really important to have that. And just to give you one example, one of our core values is systems. So from the beginning, we've always looked at, there's a few books that influenced me, but from the beginning.
What are some of them?
So I have them right here, actually. So Start With Why is one. And then the E-Myth talks a lot about systems, and so does Good to Great. I actually have them all right here. I have them in both offices. But I think it was Good to Great or the E-Myth, or a little bit of both. They talked about how your company is more like, your company is a system overall, and you plug people in. So you aren't people dependent. So how do you set that up? You set up systems to do everything. You put SOPs in place early on. You make sure that things are repeatable, and it's helped us along the way to prevent repeat mistakes and just allow people to onboard onto the company really fast, much faster than most companies. So we still focus on systems. I mean, we reboot. It's called Kaizen. I come from a manufacturing background, continuously improving, and it's been really important. You hear people in the office talking about, could we do this system? Could we do? You hear system thrown out there so much, and that's because it's a core value. I talk about it so much. I think just in general, whatever your core values are, as long as you're talking about them and you're living them within a company, it creates it creates a togetherness. You guys are all working towards. You have a bigger why, a bigger purpose. Really important.
Yeah, I'd love for you too, Zach, to talk about another core value. So systems, and I want to tell people I actually do have an interview with Michael Gerber of the E-Myth. Check it out. It's really good. And also Owen McGabb, who runs the company Suite Process, which actually is a software that helps you document SOPs. So I encourage anyone listening, check that episode out, because Zach, you're spot on. I mean, all the people I talk to that come on, the way they're able to grow and be accurate, efficient is because they have systems in place. So I love that you said that. What's another core value?
Another core value for us is just our clients. So people, systems, clients, and profit. They're all our big 4 core values. But in terms of clients, we're always trying to provide this above and beyond service. Every shipment, every client, every time. It doesn't matter if if you have a tractor and you will never do business with us again, but you need to move it from A to B, or if you're a large corporate public company that has 1,000 shipments a day, we treat you with respect and we try to provide this above and beyond service every shipment, every client, every time. And we have big letters on our wall and our sales floor, above and beyond. I love it. It just, when we're talking about it, we're talking about, hey, should I do this? Should I tell the client this? Should I tell them this? Well, what gives them that above and beyond service? What would go above and beyond? What do they expect? Great. They expect that. Let's do this one step higher. We talked about that in our conversations too. Just the above and beyond approach, everything we do.
Speak, Zach, to the moving tractors situation. There was a specific instance.
Yeah, I mean, just moving tractors in general, and then going back to the above and beyond service or experience, I think it's pretty unique for us because a lot of times when we get those quotes, they come in through the website. They go to an email, a distribution email to our whole sales team. And our goal there, we're trying to get that quote, trying to call them or email quote to them in under 1:30. We don't have it automated, but under 1:30 is our target time on new quotes. And we get it a lot of the times. I will say that people will pick up, they'll say, I just put that in, I just clicked submit. Is it? Yeah, that's us. What can we do for you? So we like to hold that standard.
I love it. Yeah, if you go to the website, everyone goes to Fide Freight, Fide Freight.com. You can see right front and center is you can request a quote and you put it in, and you guys are super fast.
Be careful, Jeremy. You're going to get a call during this podcast.
How do you? Because again, we've all dealt with companies. It could take them an hour, a day, a week to get back. What's one of the secrets to doing this? And it kind of goes into hiring, I imagine. And I'd love to talk about how do you, what's the process for hiring? And specifically, let's talk about customer service first with hiring, and we'll talk about other aspects of the company too.
Mm-hmm. Hiring is, I created a flywheel. I want to say that is Good to Great, is the flywheel concept. So when we look at our flywheel as a company, what does it start with? It always starts with hire fit people. You really have to step back and say, what is someone who's fit for this position? What am I looking for? What questions can I ask during the interview process to really dig out what does a fit person mean for my company? You can't always get it. I've had some good hires. I've had some bad hires. I learn quickly which one's which, but the idea is that whenever we're trying to do anything, it starts with fit people. Then you have a great training program. And then from there, you give a great service, you bring on more clients, you hire more fit people. It's the flywheel concept that we have here. But it all starts with how you interview and those questions you ask to really filter out, is somebody telling the truth? Anybody can give a great interview. They can prepare, they can have, they can have words ready, they can have all these phrases. I've heard it, cookie cutter answers. And sometimes you don't catch that and you're like, this person's great. Sometimes you're like, you ask something out of the box and you're like, I don't know how to answer that. So hiring is very important, just as important as training people once you bring them.
What's the process for training, right? Because someone may come in, maybe they're a good fit, and they're not used to responding within a minute and a half to something. And then when they get on, saying the right things and making that person feel welcome and comforted and professional, what's the process for training?
Well, to hit on the welcome part, we have a great office admin here who helps us. She puts up a big welcome sign with their name. So they walk in the door and it's welcome, Kyle, welcome, and it just sets that setting, that tone. But then I spend the whole day with this person. We don't hire too many people at a time, two maximum. Like I said, we're not growing too fast, but so I spend a whole day with them, and I talk a lot about the systems, our core values, what we're trying to build here, how they can be successful, and I talk a lot about their past and what was great at their past, what wasn't great, how was your culture, what did you like, what didn't you like, and kind of hit on those things. But with training, the key is to have enough people that can train. I think that's what we're running into. Is like we're all so busy. This company is it's growing in terms of our clients and stuff. So we're having a hard time like giving people enough attention to train. So we put in some systems we put in an LMS, a learning management software that we're actually implementing in the next couple of weeks that is going to help us big time and help the people that we bring on. I mean, if you have an all-star and you don't teach them how to hit the ball, they're probably not going to hit the ball. They could be an all-star deep down, but if they don't know how to hit the ball or swing, you got a problem. So it's really important.
One of the keys to success for you, it seems, in a short period of time is hiring really experienced people also.
Mm-hmm.
And, you said, your family member is really experienced. You brought in other experienced people to help run those aspects of the business. Was it, as far as your family member had connections in the industry, that seems like, you fill in these gaps where you don't have the expertise, and the same thing goes for your family member too.
Yeah. I mean, we've done that all along. He's actually no longer with the company, but he did help found it, but he's no longer with the company. But we have early on, he knew a few people in the industry, which helped us. And then, like I said, during COVID, a lot of people were letting talent go. So we were scooping it up. We may not have been able to afford the talent, or we may not have been able to manage the talent, but we scooped them up and we figured it out during COVID. And even now, a lot of times I'll see talent, our HR will see talent, and we'll scoop it right up, anytime, any opportunity we get.
Zach,
Not much out there.
Zach, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. Okay. I'm a big public company. All right. And I'm like, listen, Zach, there's these huge brokers out there. Zach, why would I go with you when I can go with some of the biggest brokers out there who could maybe service a public company like me?
I mean, that's something we run into very often, is working or being challenged against the biggest brokerages in the industry. I mean, I can think of a few clients that we brought on who large public companies that now exclusively work with us, one in specific who thought, oh, well, we need a provider. They brought on the biggest name that they could find, and it all was great during the honeymoon stage. And then it kind of dwindled out, and they couldn't even get a hold of anybody there. So it was a very easy transition when we told them, hey, you get somebody dedicated, you'll get personal service. Here's my cell phone. Here's the director of sales cell phone. You call any of us anytime. And so we really beat the competition on service and just being personable, being there. It was interesting to hear that a large company was struggling to get a hold of somebody at this firm. It was surprising, but it put a smile on my face. I will say that. So,
what are the biggest issues you see that your customers come to you with?
A lot of times, I would say a lot of times the issue is that when we're competing against other brokerages, you say, hey, I'll move something from A to B. Yeah, I can do that at this cost. then they figure out they can't do it at that cost after they already committed to it. So they go back to the customer and they say, hey, I can't move it at this cost. I got to give it back. Someone else has to move it. That's one of our philosophies that we abide by, is not giving stuff back. If we commit to it, if we take it, that's across the board. Internally, when we're talking to my other employees, if I commit to something, and same with the customers, if we commit to something, we're going to stand by it. That's just what we will do, whether it doesn't matter the cost, it doesn't matter anything except the fact that we committed at this time, we'll make it happen. So that's an area where we really excel.
Like, what are some of the milestones that, when you think of the company, these are milestones you're especially proud of?
Last year we went 50%. I guess as a company, sales is always a great milestone, right? Being able to sell more or grow more. But I think that a more of a subjective milestone is, are people happy to come to work? Are people happy to come to work? And you can ask them. And you can have multiple people ask them, are you actually happy to come here? Do you come here and do you have a smile on your face? Maybe not every day, but more often than not. And I think if we continue to do that, we continue to hit our quarterly milestones around systems and building platforms, then the sky's the limit for us. But in terms of sales numbers, we're kind of blowing out those numbers that we set last year and then this year as well already. So we're pretty excited about that. That kind of comes with a great culture, great people.
Yeah, you mentioned the people and the culture. What are things that you do that helps you maintain a good culture that other companies should think about as well?
We talk about it all the time. We challenge ourselves all the time on what a great culture is. We talk about building a foundation here as we're smaller. We have 25 people. Just all of us keeping this very secure, this tight knit. Let's hold on to this. This is our foundation. And what builds that is not necessarily just breakfast on Wednesday mornings. That's great. But continuing to bring on people that have the same philosophy of culture is very important, and bringing on people that fit. There's companies, I won't get too far into it, but there's companies that do hire, 30 people at a time. How do you maintain a culture hiring 30 people at a time? I think that'd be very difficult. That's why we hire slow, and we're not growing as fast as we could, but we are protecting our culture and growing slow to protect that culture. So it's very important.
I want to go back, Zach, to the inception of the company for a second. If anyone's watching the video, I am amazed by what you've done. You're a young guy. It's amazing, right? When you were talking to first start this company, I would think it'd be a bit scary, like just the path that you took. I know that you kind of a background in engineering. What made you decide to make that leap? Because you could have, after that job, gone, cool, listen, I'm a smart guy. I'm going to go and work for another manufacturing company. I'll be successful. It is a big undertaking to start the company. So what was your thought on at that time when you were talking to your family member?
Yeah. It was a big undertaking because it was all built with the leftover college student loans that I had. So that was kind of, that was a bit risky
Put it all
too.
on the line.
I was supposed to give those back, but ultimately that's what ended up starting and funding the first few months of this business. Since the age of 15, I've been reading business books. I've been in the market. I bought and sold a CBD business while in college. Decent exit on that. I've never been happy at a job. And I think a lot of people feel that. I think a lot of people feel that maybe they aren't so happy at a job. And we all have the opportunity to go out and build something, and it takes time, and you have to get it. I think that you have to think about it for a very long time, and you have to almost obsess about starting a business and building it out. And that's what I did for 7-8 years before starting this, and come a long way. It's been really fun though, some days.
First of all, Zach, I have one last question for you. Before I do, I just want to point people towards your website. I just appreciate your approach in sharing some of the lessons learned, and people should go to fidefreight.com. It's FIDEFREIGHT.com. My last question is, it's apparent that you're an avid reader. So I'd love to hear any other books that you would recommend people read or listen to outside of, I know you mentioned E-Myth, Good to Great, Start With Why, any others that stick out, or any other people, mentors, or books that you'd recommend people check out?
Yeah, I think in terms of mentors, Patrick Bet-David, I talked to you actually about him a little bit. Patrick Bet-David has a really good channel called Valuetainment that I grew up on, if you will, when I was starting this business. And these are all business based. E-Myth, Good to Great, Patrick Bet-David, but some maybe just mental growth books are The Untethered Soul, The Power of Now. Just read both of those recently, and then Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. It's a bit dated, I will say that, but it's interesting to hear his perspective. And I've read all these books in a matter of a month, and it's been very good for your soul, for your mental. More than just thinking about business all the time, how to grow, how to hire people, how to do all this stuff. Like, think about yourself a little bit too, and it pays dividends. It pays dividends to work on personal growth as much as the business growth. So it's been really powerful.
I love that, Zach.
Read those books.
Thank you. A number of people have actually mentioned Untethered Soul, so maybe it's a sign I should probably pick it up. It's not one I have, but I love Tony Robbins stuff. I think over here I have the whole Personal Power series and some other things. So I love that suggestion as well, Awaken the Giant Within. So Zach, I want to be the first one to thank you. Everyone check out fidefreight.com and more episodes of the podcast, Inspired Insider and Rise 25. And thanks, everyone. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast. This episode is powered by Rise 25. Please subscribe and check out future episodes.